I discovered my wife's secret Telegram group named Wives with Dummy Husbands. Watch me gaslight him into buying me a $3,200 bag, then blame his bad memory for everything. Her friends even voted on my reactions like a game. I read every message with a smile. She said, "Don't worry, babe, you're my world." I nodded and took out the trash as usual. 6 years later, guess who was honored as CEO in front of her entire friend circle? I used to believe that routine meant stability. Wake up at 6:15 a.m. Shower, shave, black coffee. Kiss my wife on the cheek as she scrolls through her phone, always half laughing at some meme or text from her group chats. Drive 35 minutes to the office, nod at Carl at the security desk, settle into my third-floor cubicle at Techland Financial. Respond to emails. Handle mid-level logistics. Make sure the numbers line up. Come home. Eat dinner. Watch something on Netflix. Go to bed. Repeat. That was my life. For nearly 9 years, give or take. I thought we were doing fine. I thought the occasional eye roll from her was just part of marriage. I thought that her calling me babe in a distracted tone was normal. I thought her late-night texting under the covers was harmless. I really thought she loved me. Her name is Alina. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party at a bar in Syracuse. She was wearing this dark green dress and had this laugh loud, carefree, like nothing in the world could hurt her. She made me feel like I could be more interesting than I actually was. She teased me that night about how I held my wine glass like it was scotch. We started dating a week later. Moved in after 10 months. Married after 2 years. She always said I was her calm. She is steady. "You're the solid rock in my crazy ocean," she told me once while we lay in bed, her fingers tracing circles on my chest. I remember thinking, maybe this is what love looks like after the fireworks. But somewhere along the line, I stopped being her rock. I became her default. I don't know when it started exactly. Maybe it was when she joined that new Pilates class and suddenly came home too tired to talk. Or when her group of girlfriends started having wine nights every other weekend, and she'd come home tipsy and a little too cheerful. Or maybe it was when she changed her phone password and told me, "It's just because I've got a lot of work stuff now." It all seems obvious now. But back then, I didn't see it. I was too caught up in playing the role she gave me. Dependable, predictable, supportive, and blind. One night, about 6 years into our marriage, I was up late trying to finish a quarterly report. My laptop kept crashing, so I borrowed her iPad. She never minded, or so I thought. It didn't take long for the notification to pop up. Telegram. New message in Wives with Dummy Husbands. I stared at the screen for a second. Thought maybe it was spam. But then another one came through. Carmen. LOL Alina. You are evil face with tears of joy. How'd he fall for it? Curiosity? Instinct? I don't know what made me open it. But I did. And what I saw changed the way I looked at my entire life. The group had 6 women in it. Alina. Carmen. Jess. Fiona. Mrs. Minty. And someone just named A. Their bio line said, "Marriage is a game. Play smarter, not harder." Wineglass lipstick handbag. There were hundreds of messages. Photos. Screenshots. Jokes. All at the expense of their husbands. And Alina, my wife, the woman who once cried in my arms because I forgot our 2nd anniversary. She was the ringleader. She posted pictures of me asleep with Cheeto dust on my shirt. Captioned, "This is who I convinced to buy me a $3,200 Loewe bag because he thought I lost my old purse at the airport." Nail polish. She posted screenshots of our texts, me asking if she'd seen my missing debit card. Watch me gaslight him into thinking he misplaced it again. He actually apologized. Loudly crying face. There was a poll. How do we rate Owen's reaction when I said I'd be out with Carmen, but was really at Derek's? Face with and over mouth votes. 7 out of 10. He's catching on. 4 out of 10. Kinda sad. 9 out of 10. Bless his heart, he's clueless. I just sat there, scrolling and scrolling. My face must have looked frozen because I remember the reflection of myself in the iPad screen blank, pale, mouth slightly open. I must have read 20 different conversations like that. She even posted a video of me folding laundry while humming an old Billy Joel song. Her caption, "My sweet little housemaid. He thinks I do the dishes just because I prefer them done my way." Loudly crying face. I kept reading. At some point, I started smiling. Not because it was funny. No, because it was so ridiculous, so condescending, so absurd that I knew right then and there. They didn't see me coming. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek, handed me a banana for breakfast, and said, "Don't forget we have dinner with Fiona and Nate Saturday night." I nodded, smiled, and said, "Of course, babe." Then I took out the trash. Like I always did. I used to think I was a good husband. Not perfect, but solid. I showed up. I fixed things. I brought her coffee in bed on Sundays, without being asked. I remembered her mom's birthday, her dentist appointments, her weird dairy-free yogurt preference. I kept my head down, did the work, paid the bills, and tried to make life feel smooth for both of us. She used to call me her constant, her everyday hero. That was before I found out I was the punchline of a private Telegram group she ran with 5 of her friends called Wives with Dummy Husbands. Before I read every smug, cruel message and saw my life through their eyes, a collection of jokes, polls, and screenshots of my most sincere moments. But let me back up. It was a Thursday, mid-April. I remember because my boss had just given me that "you're a team player, but talk," the one that's basically a soft threat without the courtesy of saying what's really wrong. I came home late, head pounding, and our home smelled like her new candles, some eucalyptus nonsense she picked up from a boutique in Ithaca. She was on the couch, wine in hand, eyes half glued to her phone. Her legs were curled under a throw blanket she didn't actually need. She glanced up, gave me the usual half smile. "You're late." "Yeah." "Meeting ran over." "You eat." I nodded, kicked off my shoes, loosened my tie. "Some crap at the office." She turned her attention back to her screen. I watched her for a second, noticed how fast her thumbs moved. She was laughing not hard, just one of those light, sharp snorts she did when something was mean but funny. "What's so funny?" I asked, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. "Just Carmen being ridiculous," she muttered, eyes still glued to her phone. "She's always roasting her husband in our group chat." I nodded slowly and walked into the kitchen. Something about her laugh. It stuck with me. Not just the way she laughed. It was the kind of laugh that made me feel like someone else was being made a fool of. I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't think much of anything back then. Later that night, around 1:30, I was still awake. My laptop kept crashing while I was working on this report for our Q2 projections. I was frustrated, mentally fried, and didn't feel like dealing with restarting it again. So I reached for her iPad, sitting on the charger near the nightstand. We shared devices all the time. Or so I thought. The screen lit up with her lock screen and a new passcode. I tried our anniversary. No luck. Her birthday. No luck. Then I remembered her college graduation year. That worked. I was about to open my email on the browser when a Telegram notification popped up across the top. "Jess. Girl, stop face with tears of joy. You did not say that to him." Curious, I tapped it. Telegram opened, and what I saw at the top of the chat was this. Group. "Wives with dummy husbands, marriage is a game. Win it." I wish I could say I hesitated. That I respected her privacy. That I backed away. But I didn't. Not even for a second. The most recent message from Alina, my wife of 6 years, was this. "Alina, watch me make him believe we lost our Amex at the grocery store, so he wires me $3,000 for a new emergency bag, while I keep the old one accidentally locked in the trunk, loudly crying face. He's so easy." Another one came in from Carmen. "Carmen, he'll think it's his fault too, huh?" Alina, "Already does. Told him he might be having another one of his memory fog days." He apologized, relieved face. I felt something in me clench, not in anger, not even in sadness. Just a quiet, sinking heaviness. Like sitting in a room and realizing the walls aren't walls, they're paper, and behind them are people laughing at you. I kept scrolling, and the deeper I went, the more I realized how far the joke went. Photos of me doing laundry. Her captions? "My little live-in maid. Basket. I told him I like things done my way. Now he's folding like a Nordstrom intern." Screenshots of my texts from business trips. "Look at this. He still says good night with little heart emojis. Should I tell him I'm sleeping next to Derek or nah?" Then I found the polls. Polls. "How fast did he fold when I cried about needing more help around the house?" Loudly crying face, votes. Like a dish rag, clapping hands. He's trained AF. That's level 7 gaslight. Queen. There was even a video of me practicing a speech for a company conference. She'd recorded me, without telling me, from behind the door. Her caption? "OMG, he thinks he's gonna be VP. I'm dying. My man out here giving TED Talks to no one." Face with tears of joy skull. I just sat there, the iPad glowing in my lap, the sounds of her light breathing next to me. I didn't move. I didn't react. I didn't throw it across the room or scream or cry. I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because it hit me she had no idea who I really was. Not the man I was in public. Not the quiet, thoughtful husband she could manipulate. Not the guy she could use for content in a group chat. She thought I was dumb, but I wasn't. I was patient. The next morning, she handed me a banana and a protein bar like she always did. I smiled, kissed her on the temple, and said, "You're the best." She smirked. "Don't forget we've got Carmen's dinner this weekend. Wouldn't miss it." Then I took out the trash. Same as every morning. But in my head, I was already building something. I didn't confront her. That's the part that always shocks people when I tell them about this. I didn't blow up, didn't throw her phone in the sink or storm out or sleep in the car. Because I knew her. I knew exactly how that would play out. She'd cry, twist the story, say I invaded her privacy. She'd make me the bad guy for reading messages she'd written behind my back. She'd cry in front of her friends, spin it into, "He went through my phone because he doesn't trust me, and now he's threatening to leave me." And she'd win. Again, I wasn't going to give her that ending. Instead, I started playing dumb better than I ever had. I smiled more. I said, "I love you" more often. I took her shopping, brought her flowers on random Thursdays, made her believe everything was still right where she left it. She had no idea the shift had already started. That Monday, I called my old college roommate, Raj. He picked up and went, "Wow, Owen Cross. Still alive." "Barely," I said. "Listen, you still consulting? For weaklings who pay me. You finally getting out of that corporate cubicle graveyard." "Working on it," I said. "But I need your help." I told him I wanted to build something. Slowly, quietly. Not a company, not yet, but a brand. A foundation. Something mine. Something outside the walls of Techland Financial. I didn't have a flashy idea, but I had a pain I could turn into purpose, and I had time. My evenings. My weekends. The hours she assumed I was busy folding laundry or watching reruns. Raj helped me sketch out a roadmap. He didn't know the full story yet. Just that I wanted to become harder to replace, harder to humiliate. We worked in silence, nights on Zoom calls, slowly transforming years of unnoticed skill into something sharper, leaner, worth more. All while at home, she carried on. I'd catch her watching videos of luxury bags on YouTube, muttering to herself, "Oh my God, this would go with my white jumpsuit." She started leaving her browser open with links to things she accidentally forgot to close. And every time she gaslit me into paying for something, I just nodded, like a good dummy husband. There was one night I won't forget. We were brushing our teeth side by side, and she said, "You know, I don't tell you enough, but I really appreciate how dependable you are." I spat into the sink. "What do you mean?" She looked at me through the mirror, smiled softly, almost condescending. "Just, you never get angry. Never blow up. It's nice. Most guys are so reactive." "Guess I'm just too dull to react," I said with a grin. She laughed. "Don't say that. You're just steady. That's rare." Then she kissed me on the cheek like I was a Labrador who didn't eat the couch cushions that day. I went to bed that night and added another set of action points to my roadmap. Over the next 3 years, everything shifted silently. At work, I took every trash client, every boring file no one wanted, every late shift. I volunteered for the painful stuff. I watched management change hands twice, and both times I stayed rooted, took notes, adapted faster than anyone around me. And outside of work, I built a small consulting firm. Quietly, I started by helping small local businesses with inventory logistics and procurement systems, the same dry stuff I did every day at Techland, but on my terms. I didn't even file the LLC in my name. I used my cousin's. Nobody knew. Not her. Not my coworkers. By the 4th year, I had 8 clients, a part-time virtual assistant, and a wait list. I bought my own server. I trademarked a name. I reinvested every dime. Didn't touch a penny for myself. Just grew it. And all that time, I played the part at home. I brought her lattes on Sundays. She kept mocking me in her group chats. She'd go to Carmen's on Saturday nights and come home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. And I'd be in my home office, balancing spreadsheets, running Zoom calls on mute. She didn't know. She never suspected. And then, one night, I finally told Raj the full story. Every message, every post, every screenshot. He sat back in his chair and just stared at me. "Jesus," he said. "You read all that? All of it? And you stayed?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because I'm not done watching." Raj nodded slowly. "And when you are?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet. But I knew the time was coming. I could feel it. The ground under her was starting to shift. She just didn't know it yet. And when it came, I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was just going to show up. In front of every person who ever voted on how well I folded under pressure and folded nothing. Somewhere around year 5, things started shifting. Not for her. For me. It wasn't a sudden change, nothing dramatic. That wasn't the game I was playing. It was subtle, incremental, like leveling up in a game no one knew you were playing. At Techland, I was no longer just Owen from procurement. The VP, Janelle, who used to barely look up when I walked into meetings, now looped me in on strategic planning calls. I started mentoring new hires. Quietly, my name started coming up when conversations turned to who could lead special projects, who had long-term vision. At home, she was still laughing behind my back, still floating between her dinner parties and Pilates weekends, still making me look like the lucky husband who scored a beautiful, charming, high-maintenance wife and was just grateful to be allowed to orbit her world. What she didn't know was, I was no longer orbiting her. I'd built my own gravity. Then came the gala. Techland was hosting a major event downtown at one of those corporate fundraisers where everyone wore overpriced suits and pretended they liked canapes. I wasn't planning to attend. Those events bored the heck out of me. But a week before, Janelle stopped me in the hallway. "Owen," she said, "we're announcing our new executive division leads. You might want to be there." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you telling me or inviting me?" She smiled. "Both." So I RSVP'd. Told Alina we were going. She pouted for a second, said, "You know Carmen's birthday thing is that night," but I gave her a look that made her realize it wasn't optional. We arrived at the Marriott Ballroom just past 6 p.m. She looked stunning, of course. Dark navy gown, hair in those soft waves she knew looked good in photos. She clutched her little Gucci purse like it was her favorite accessory, not something she once faked losing to get a more expensive one. The room buzzed with soft jazz and clinking glasses. I introduced her to a few colleagues. She put on her charm, the same charm she weaponized in her Telegram group, all wide smiles and fake laughs and perfectly placed compliments. It wasn't until halfway through the night that they called my name. I wasn't expecting a spotlight. I wasn't expecting the phrase, "our new chief strategy officer," to be attached to me. And I sure as heck wasn't expecting the applause. But it happened. People turned. Faces I barely knew clapped. I shook hands. I took the mic briefly, said something simple, grateful, humbled, excited to build something real, and I could feel Alina watching me. Something in her expression shifted. She smiled, sure, but it was tight, a little too slow, like the math in her head had just started glitching. After I sat back down, she leaned in and whispered, "You didn't tell me you were getting promoted." I sipped my drink. Didn't know myself until last week. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Chief Strategy Officer?" "Yeah. How long have you ever been running?" I looked at her, smiled. "Long enough." She laughed nervously, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Wow. Wow. Good for you, babe. Thanks." She turned back to the stage, but I watched her. Her eyes weren't on the speeches anymore. They were bouncing around the room, trying to place herself in this new ecosystem where her safe and steady husband now had status. I could see it hit her. She didn't know who she was married to anymore. And I wasn't done yet. Over the next month, her behavior changed in small, almost imperceptible ways. She was nicer, more attentive, made dinner more often, left notes in my bag like she used to early in our marriage. Once, she even surprised me with a new briefcase, saying, "Thought you might need something fancier now that you're all important." It was subtle, but I knew what it was. Damage control. She was rebuilding her persona, trying to recalibrate. She even cut back on her girls' nights. Claimed they were all just getting older and busy. But I saw the panic. And then, about 6 weeks after the gala, I got a message from a woman named Elise. I didn't know her well. We'd crossed paths at a vendor summit once. She worked in marketing for a partner firm in Albany. The message said, "Hey Owen, sorry if this is weird, but I think you should see something. You didn't hear this from me." Attached. I opened the attachment. It was a screen recording of her, scrolling through a private Instagram story labeled "The Wives Room Kiss Mark." There were videos of Alina, clips of her mocking my tie at the gala, a boomerang of me talking to another exec, captioned, "He really out here thinking he's a big shot now, face with tears of joy, please." Another one of her laughing into the camera. "Can't believe he actually made it. The universe has a sixth sense of humor." In the background, her friends laughed. They voted on a poll again, just like the Telegram group from years ago. "How long until he buys me the new Cartier?" Smiling face with horns votes. "Already did. He just doesn't know yet." "Tell him it's a legacy piece," face with tears of joy. "Add a sob story about your grandma again, lol." I stared at the screen. Then I closed my office door, sat down, and smiled. Because I realized something important. She hadn't changed. Not even a little. I didn't reply to Elise. Didn't need to. She sent me the final puzzle piece I hadn't even known I was missing. Confirmation that Alina hadn't evolved, hadn't grown, hadn't changed. Not even with the new title. Not with the respect I'd earned. Not with the life I'd quietly built for us, and then entirely without her. She still thought I was her story to control. But I wasn't her story anymore. She was mine. That night, I went home like usual. Kissed her cheek. Ate the salmon she overcooked. Smiled when she brought up vacation ideas. She said we should go to Greece in the fall. Somewhere romantic. Maybe Santorini. I nodded. Said it sounded beautiful. Then I asked if she'd help host a dinner. "A dinner?" "Yeah," I said casually, pouring us both a glass of wine. "Company thing. Janelle and some of the leadership team want to do something informal. At our place." Alina smiled. "Oh, you want to show me off, don't you?" I chuckled. "Something like that." She was giddy. For the next 2 weeks, she went all redecorating, ordering new cutlery, practicing fancy recipes, and ordering a new dress. I let her. I even praised her taste in flowers and suggested which playlist to use. She thought she was hosting the night of her life. And in a way, she was. The night of the dinner, the house looked stunning. She looked stunning. Candlelight in the dining room. Soft music playing, appetizers ready. She kept checking the door, pacing, anxious but excited. Then the guests arrived. But it wasn't just Techland's exec team. I'd invited someone else too. Carmen, Jess, Fiona, Mrs. Minty. Hey, the whole Telegram gang. How? Easy. I knew their usernames. I knew their real names from other social media crumbs. And all it took was a little tech help from Raj to track down who was who. I didn't message them. I didn't threaten or expose them. I invited them to a networking dinner hosted by Alina and Owen Cross private residence. They didn't know who else was coming. But when they stepped into our foyer and saw each other and Alina standing frozen in the middle, the air shifted. Jess was the first to speak. "What is this?" Carmen looked from me to Alina and back again. "Owen, is this a joke?" Alina's face turned pale. I smiled and said, "No joke. Alina's been talking about getting all the people she's closest to together. I figured now's the perfect time. Everyone went quiet. I could see her panic building, the flicker in her eyes. She tried to keep it together. She turned to me slowly and hissed, "What are you doing?" I leaned close, whispered, "Serving the main course." Then I walked into the living room and let the silence stew. They tried to make small talk, forced laughter. They couldn't even look at each other without wondering what the others knew or what I knew. After a while, I tapped my glass. "I just want to say a few words," I began, "to thank everyone for coming. I've spent years surrounded by brilliant, dynamic women. My wife's friends are always full of opinions, always so insightful about marriage. I've learned so much from all of you." I heard someone cough. Alina shot me a look, begging. I smiled back. "I've learned how to fold laundry the right way, how to take blame for things I don't remember doing, and how to be gaslit so effectively, I questioned if I even existed." Jess looked down at her plate. Carmen picked at her wine glass stem. "I've also learned how to build something in silence, to take the hurt and the mockery and use it as fuel. And I want to thank my wife sincerely for making sure I never got too comfortable. Without her, I wouldn't have had the drive to become who I am now." I raised my glass. "To reinvention, to clarity, to know who's really at your table." Then I sat down. No yelling, no drama, just facts. Alina didn't say a word the rest of the night, and I didn't need her to. The fallout was quite beautifully quiet. Over the next few weeks, the Telegram group vanished. I assumed they deleted it. Carmen blocked Alina. Jess unfollowed her. The rest went ghost. At home, things got colder. Alina tried to repair it at first, begged for a clean slate, said she was lost and insecure and caught up in stupid jokes that weren't even real. But I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't scold her. I didn't even accuse. I just looked at her like I'd never seen her before because, truly, I hadn't. Eventually, she stopped trying. The dinners stopped. The late-night cuddles stopped. She moved into the guest room just for space. And then, one sunny afternoon a few months later, she asked if we could talk. She sat on the edge of the couch, twisting a ring she no longer wore much. "I think we should separate." I nodded. "I agree." She blinked. "You do?" I didn't even smile. "I've been preparing for it for a while." We divorced without fanfare. No screaming. No courtroom wars. I gave her what was fair, no more, no less. She moved out quietly. The house got quieter too, but not lonely, not sad, peaceful. And me? My company grew. I stepped into my new role as CSO with confidence, launched my consulting business publicly, rebranded, and brought Raj on officially. I started speaking at conferences, mentoring. I even went on a few dates. Nothing serious, not yet. But for the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because someone completed me, but because I stopped letting someone diminish me. A year later, at another Techland gala, I was introduced on stage again. This time, for a leadership award. The ballroom was full, and I saw her, Alina, in the crowd. Not with anyone. Not as a guest. Just there. Distant. Our eyes met briefly. She smiled. Small. Sad. And I nodded once, not with malice, not with smugness. Just closure. Because in the end, I didn't have to scream or seek revenge and fire. I just had to become someone they could never laugh at again. And I did.